Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I'm going to be letting you know exactly which is the best tank in World of Tanks, and unironically I think it's the MAUS, and I'm going to let you know why I think that is the case today. The MAUS is just an unbelievable tour de force in World of Tanks. It is not only the most healthy tank inside the game, I think it is also the most fun tank inside the game. Not only can you have a little bit of banter with your allies, with Maximus here saying, "MAUS, I will support you with my life. We rule this." And I say, "Why no paint?" He says, "Heavy tank doesn't need MAUS. Winger like tongue face." And then the IS-7R team says, "Terrible skin." And I say, "You be jelly, bruv." There's just, you know, it's the perfect tank because you're so slow getting into position that you have enough time to either really get to know your allies, or at least hopefully just try and make a few friends that you can be able to have some fun on the battlefield. Look, the MAUS is also the best tank in the game because it was the first tier 10 inside the game. There were only 2 tier 10s in the original version of World of Tanks on the CIS server, and that would have been the MAUS in the German tank tree and the IS-7, funnily enough the vehicle that thought my skin looks awful, inside the Soviet tank tree. One of the great things about having such a large amount of hit points is you can make just aggressive plays in the MAUS, and you take damage, and well, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter. You take damage to be able to make positional plays. Everyone knows that the Super Conqueror, this is like the most meta tank inside the game. It's got forward, it's on the ridge line, it's probably seen that there's 2 MAUS on the enemy team, and it's preloaded gold to be able to farm all of our hit points. Well, what happens when the MAUS band together? What happens when the MAUS don't just sit on the corner and be able to allow you to farm them? And what happens when the MAUS decides, right, you're going to hit me pretty hard, bruv? But what happens if I occasionally ricochet one of your shells? And how about what if 190 tons of tank managed to do even little bumps onto a Super Conqueror? That's 260 damage. Now we set them on fire, and this is my favorite part here. I think the Super Conqueror actually stops playing for a second. I don't think he's actually even trying to aim at the MAUS anymore, as he's just getting rammed by Maximus there. We are only down like 1,000 hit points. You'd think we'd be down more, but it's all about angling your armor, which is again the best thing about the MAUS. You just have to sometimes accept, alright, 277, don't care about you, shoot me. We've got to dig the guy out from the corner. And luckily, Maximus is evidently a bit of a gamer, a bit of a role player here. And we're going to have some fun with the Centurion, which is, again, another reason why this is the most fun tank. We're going to vault them up, we're going to crush them a little bit, we're going to trade hit points with the Centurion. I'm going to try and get out the way here so I can get a shot, but I actually fluffed my shot here. But luckily, Maximus has had enough. He's just going to mount the Centurion and crush him. And somehow, I don't know how, but I actually ended up getting a little bit more ramming damage on the Centurion there. And look, okay, well, look, Maximus is showing me that you don't really need to paint your MAUS in this scenario. But look, you kind of do. Even on a heavy tank like this, you pretty much double, if not triple, the MAUS's actual camo rating by taking a style on it. Because remember, the base camo on this vehicle is going to be 1.42% when you're stationary, and no one in their right mind would ever take a concealment crew on the vehicle, but slapping on a style, I think it's going to be about 2% base, so you're actually literally doubling your camo, which might make the edge of a difference in a long-range engagement. What you just saw there is just why I love playing the MAUS. Playing aggressively, dominating meta tanks, throwing your weight around. Look, I'm not the biggest guy IRL, but when it comes to the battlefield, you could be like 4'11" tall, and you could still be able to have the biggest tank inside the game. All you need is like to grind up the tech tree, which isn't even that bad these days since Wargaming have buffed pretty much most of them, and then get about 6 million credits at the end. One of the really cool things about the MAUS I found as well is that it's not just like a pay-to-win tank. Sure, it's kind of more fun if you do take chocolate on it and you spam a load of gold rounds, but as you've seen in my recent YouTube videos, its baby brother, the Moistion, has actually been giving me one of my best win rates on my free-to-play account in any of my tier 9 tank tree heavies, and that was even from stock. So the path towards the MAUS isn't even that bad. And while a lot of players will look at the MAUS as an XP pinata, I would also argue that that is one of the strengths of the MAUS. You'll have players like that Super Conqueror who's probably literally licking their lips getting into position thinking, oh, this is going to be my big damage game. But if you don't just sit there and allow them to be able to dictate the engagement against you, then the kinds of things that you can do with push plays in the MAUS, I mean, it's why it's one of my most voted for tanks when I do poll tanks on my Twitch stream. Because everybody knows that if you're a little bit mad, like I am, and you play the MAUS, it works out. And just silly stuff like this. Who would have thought that the MAUS could take such a position and become this absolutely indomitable force on the battlefield? Now look, maybe the Foch 155 could pen their 395 heat rounds. If there was a Jagdpanzer 100 or other vehicles on the enemy team, you still got to be a little bit careful. However, just to be able to lock down this position, say, okay, Mr. IS-7, you're above me. If you're going to poke out, I'm going to take a swing at you. And hopefully just launching my vehicle a little bit over the ridgeline to be able to see what the enemy team are doing here. From this position, my opponents really aren't going to do very much against this turret. I guess unless they hit just here on the cheeks and they've got like a real big penetration premium round. And just having like, becoming this unmovable object, even in the open, with some of the most intelligent defensive possibilities on this tank. Anyone who's played the MAUS, if you get an affinity with it, nothing else really feels like this tank for when you're kind of angling the armor, because you truly feel that you decide who you're protecting yourself from. Now, it's kind of like that with other tanks in a way, but just the fact that the armor is so thick and angled at 45 degrees makes it just so much more almost personal when you're specifically trying to bounce your opponents. So, you know what, I've even got enough time here to say that Maximus on my team needs to change his name to MaxiMAUS. I thought I was so original and so hilarious while this was happening live. But then one of my good friends, M4, actually went and Googled or went on Wargaming's website and searched for players, and I'm not the first one who's ever thought of calling themselves MaxiMAUS inside the game. So Maximus, who doesn't reply to my suggestion of MaxiMAUS, now makes a suggestion. Do you think it's good to go down and towards them? I say, yeah, maybe. The Leo dies soon, so we gotta go. And you know what? Irrelevant. If I die driving into position, so what? Yeah, don't drive like that in the MAUS. But look, we've bounced the K91, we've bounced the Foch, and isn't this just a wonderful line? Look at this. This 190-ton German conga line just driving towards the opponents, bouncing everything. And that's because when the MAUS sits still and it isn't angling itself correctly, sure, it is the XP Pinata, but as long as you drive at angles towards your opponent, it can become just this, as I've said a few times in this video, just this unstoppable force. And it's really about having that confidence about and the timing to know when to make the push plays, and also to know when it's time to be able to push the tempo. Because I could sit there and I could relax, fine, but also when we saw that the Leopard was going to die towards the south, that's the point of the game when you've got to commit and you've got to take your chance. And luckily with the IS-7 and the 277 towards the center, hopefully me and Maximus can swing round and be able to go after the enemy team. One thing that I'm truly worried about right now is the enemies getting towards the cap circle. Unfortunately, I make a bit of a misplay here. I say one heavy flank, and that means that I miss two opportunities to shoot the SDB-1 and the Manticore. Oh my goodness. But I'm actually happy that we spot the Manticore, not just so that we can know where they are, but also that means that they're not about to start capping our base. And while this vehicle is the best in the game, it's also one of the slowest in the game as well. Although it does get a lot better when you get the field mods that increase its top speed by 2 kilometers and you combine that with a turbo. So Maximus tells me to fall back, we are in the middle of them. Well, unfortunately, Maximus, there's not really too much that we can do about it. I'm pinging the map trying to suggest to Maximus that if we stay here, that all that's going to happen is they're going to cap us, and if they cap us, it's going to be lights out for our team. However, with the Foch being spotted up towards the north, you know, I actually double thought about what Maximus was saying there. And then I realized it's just not the right play. Sometimes you've got to know when to commit. Sometimes you've got to know when to take the fight to the enemy team. However, with Maximus going one way and me going the other, we've split up this dynamic duo of German awesomeness. but we're also creating our own front, which we can kind of push out. And while it might be a little bit ambitious to drive against 3 tanks in a MAUS that's on 985 hit points, what have we got to lose? Nothing. The enemy team are currently winning this game. They're up by a couple of vehicles. They've got the map pressure. We've got 2 sleepy heavies who don't seem to be doing too much in the game in the middle of the map. However, I need to correct myself because the IS-7 actually manages to spot out the Gorilla. And the SW-1, I guess, thought that they were going to come and sit hull down against us. Not today, friend. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like the IS-7 actually hits the Gorilla there, and so that Gorilla is full health that we're going to have to deal with. Luckily, it looks like Maximus has gone back towards the base. They've shut down the Foch with the 277, and now we can be able to go with the Gorilla and the K91. So Maximus says, wished I'd come with you, but it's okay like that. No, Maximus, you needed to go pressure the cap circle. It's okay. Maybe I can handle myself against this K91. It puts 1 round into the side of us, but I'm going to be able to put 1 round into the side of them. Now, I'm reversing while also trying to keep in mind of where the Gorilla is going to be. I have to just duel this K91, and luckily for me, it looks like the Manticore went all the way around the back and has now actually created a pincer play on Maximus. So the K91 makes a bit of a misplay there against me, exposes the side of his tank, bounces a shell off, now going to pressure, which is pretty much his only move because he's got the better rate of fire. But my armor is thick, even against their 270mm of penetration. We shut them down, and the IS-7 now pressures the Gorilla, and I was feeling pretty chipper, to say the least. And honestly, ladies and gents, look, it's not the biggest game in World of Tanks, but this game had every reason why the MAUS is epic. Enough time to create a plan and to have a little bit of a think as you're getting yourself into position. The fact that people seem to love the MAUS, and MAUS drivers will kind of club together, hopefully to do epic things. Teaming up with your allies and having enough hit points and armor to be able to make those aggressive pushes against meta players, having enough weight to literally tank handle your opponents like we did against the Centurion, enough armor to be able to become the meme in the middle of the battlefield, and also the fact that you can kind of surprise your opponents because a lot of MAUS drivers are awful. But if you're a good player, and even if you're not, you make the occasional good play, you can really surprise them when the MAUS turns up the heat on them. And while everyone's used to just spamming gold in the cheeks, if you defend yourself intelligently by angling your turret, you get one kind of ricochet. Sometimes it's too much pressure for your opponents. And when you've got a big old 190-ton like this, yeah, it can exert a lot of pressure quickly. So an ace tanker here for the MAUS for 1,259 base experience. We managed to get ourselves 6,000 damage dealt and make ourselves a good amount of profit, even though we fired a few gold rounds at the end of the game. And a big shout out to Maximus and their MAUS, as well as also Sergeant, MG, and Kusi for that epic hold and comeback in what was just a stonking round of World of Tanks. And so the MAUS, I ironically think it is the best tank inside the game, and I think that everyone should at least try it to see if they can vibe with it. Get yourself a durability device, get yourself definitely a turbo, and then your choice of gun rammer or vents. My preference is vents, while making sure you take a mobility slot to be able to improve that turbo, the field mod that further increases its top speed by 2 kilometers an hour, and then the internal module durability, and you might end up having as much fun as I do in the biggest tank inside the game. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was it for today. Really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know in the comments whether you are as much in love with the MAUS as I am. And if you're watching this video as it goes live on Monday, there are brand new Twitch tokens available so you can get yourself a variety of goodies. So swing by twitch.tv/QuickyBaby to help get closer towards the T14, or just get yourself some other funky stuff as well. So really looking forward to seeing you all live. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.